Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com Deep Dive presented by Dottie's Family Market in Dover, PA. Joining us on the show this week is Midwest car owner Dennis Gainey. Before we get to Dennis, Dottie's Family Market in Dover, PA is your one-stop shop on the way to the races. They have fresh-made sandwiches and subs with all the fixins, perfect for a night at the racetrack. Dottie's Family Market has everything you need in one location, including a full-service deli, a wide selection of groceries, and gas. If you're looking to dine in, head over to the Hive Coffee House and Cafe for a great sandwich. There is also a seasonal greenhouse on site, and coming soon, Dottie's Crab House, where you can dine in for fresh seafood and all-you-can-eat Maryland crabs. Head over to the corner of Canal and Bull Road in Dover, PA. Dottie's Family Market has you covered. Now here's Dennis. So Dennis, welcome to the deep dive. It's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy.
No problem. So, we were on the phone yesterday talking about doing this, and I, admittedly, I don't even know much about you as far as ownership. You're kind of a mystery, even in the Midwest. And I was talking to Tyler Swank, and he said he talks to you all the time, and he doesn't know much about you. So it's kind of so I wanted to get you on. Tyler's an interesting guy. So, um, when did you get involved in racing? I understand your grandfather. Am I right that your grandfather raced? It was in your family since pretty much all your life?
Yeah, I've been around sprint cars pretty much since the day I was born, 1979. So I'm getting up there. Not as old as Tyler, but I'm getting there. My grandfather ran figure eight stock cars locally in the Quad Cities. So the Quad Cities is Davenport, Iowa, Moline, Illinois, Bettendorf, Iowa, and Rock Island. So my grandpa ran figure eight stock cars for years. So my dad was around it when he was a kid growing up, and then he met a buddy that was racing sprint cars around Iowa, Columbus Junction, 34 Raceway, places like that, and so we started going sprint car racing. As I grew up, he built wings for the Schaff 23S and Chuck Merrill's car in Central Illinois before we moved to Arizona. And when we lived out in Arizona, he worked at a speed shop, and so around everything and anything from dirt cars to pavement midgets. Went to the Copper World Classic every year before, back in the day when it was big, when they had all the classes,
Mm-hmm.
and just gradually grew up. Um, my parents got divorced mid 80s and moved from Arizona to New Orleans, Louisiana, then Pensacola, Florida. So I grew up down south. We'd visit my father during the summers, and obviously, summertime it's big for racing. So we'd come to Knoxville just about every weekend. He had a camper um, there on at that time on the actual fairgrounds, right behind the front stretch grandstands. So I grew up just around the cars all the time. About the time I turned 16, I started working on them for fun, just local racer type stuff. The day I turned 18, I moved from Florida to Champaign, Illinois. Spent a lot of time going over to the Speedway during the month of May. Just loved everything and anything about racing. Just started working on race cars shortly after that, sprint cars around Knoxville. Worked for both Terry Thorson and John Carney in the 360 class at Knoxville. Won a track championship with Carney. Won a lot of races. Started working for Bobby Meinzer for a while, and at that point, my career took me to Wisconsin. And with being in Wisconsin, one of my good friends, Davey Ray, was running Badger Midgets, so I worked on his stuff on Sunday nights for a while. Got lucky and managed to win a championship with Davey because I just riding everyone's coattails around, right? And, working with Davey, that was on the Wilkie car on Ralph Wilkie's midget, the Flying Five, and won a lot of races with them over a couple years. Managed to somehow help Tracy at Chili Bowl the year he won he won the Chili Bowl, just tinkering, not really doing anything, just being a tire guy, just just for the love of the sport, volunteering my time.
Right.
Wisconsin got me to a decent point in my actual career, and just started helping guys a little bit with money and stuff. And about 3 years ago, I decided that I was done buying everybody else stuff, and I was gonna buy my own stuff for a while. So that's where we stand.
So I got a ton of questions now. So uh, you have a brother who's actually a crew chief, a NASCAR crew chief, correct?
Correct. My younger brother Brian, he's currently a crew chief for Sam Hunt Racing. He's running kind of their part-time car currently. Corey Heim, I think this weekend at Talladega, I think they got Jeffrey Earnhardt in the car. Um, the last couple years, he was car chief for over at Joe Gibbs Racing for the Xfinity 20 car. So he won a championship with Ty Gibbs. Um, Won a slew of races in that car with everybody from Nemechek to Truex to like you name anybody that's been in that car, and they won races
Hmm.
together. So he took that step to go to Sam Hunt to be a crew chief because that's been his dream. So and he's doing pretty well. I think they ran in the top 10 a couple, maybe at Darlington or close to the top 10, but they ran really good down there. They've had definitely some good runs lately. So I'm excited for him to keep building on that success.
So you have this long lineage in racing. Why not a driver? What made you go kind of migrate to the mechanical side as opposed to driving them? Because you could have gone either way.
Yeah, I think it's it's difficult to say, but I feel that everybody thinks that they can drive a race car.
Hmm.
There's not many people that find the challenge and making them go in circles, and that's what I find challenging, and that's what I like doing.
Well, and right now this sport needs that probably more than they need drivers.
Probably right.
So, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But you get into ownership. Uh, why? I mean, that's expensive. I mean, I always ask every owner. I mean, you could buy a boat. You could. I mean, it's expensive. It's not exactly a money making venture. What made you? I mean, really want to get into the ownership side because that's a tough deal. You're dealing with drivers. You're dealing. I mean, I'm assuming you work on it. But you're dealing with a lot of personalities, a lot of moving parts, drivers, a lot of headaches.
Yeah, it is expensive, that's for sure. My
Yeah,
wife continues to ask me where her beach house is. Um, Someday, Betty, someday.
there
Um,
you go.
I think it really started. Currently, my next door neighbor here at the shop is Brian Ridge's team, the RSR team, and Aaron
Hmm.
Reitzel, and they had an engine for sale. It was a rider, and I'm like, okay, well you know, maybe I'll do this. And I talked with Brian a bit for it, and decided I was going to buy an engine. And then I'm just kind of like, now I guess it's time to go, right? Like if you have one, I always figured that was the biggest part. I'd been discussing starting a team for years with Brandon Wimmer, and had told him that I wanted him to run the car because I knew I wasn't going to run a full-time schedule, right? I'm like, we're going to run, when I do this, I'm just going to do maybe 10, 12 races a year. He would fit in that. He's definitely got talent. He knows a lot. And so I bought an engine and I sent him a photo, and he's like, he couldn't believe I did it. And we just started. He made some introductions from manufacturers. Dan over at Maxim to get me some cars built and everything. And we just started working on it. We built the first set of cars in Indiana at Brandon's shop. We didn't have any tools. We didn't have a trailer. We didn't have a truck, right? Like it was everything. And we just started it, and we ran one race. And the second week, we actually broke a wrist pin in the engine and obliterated it.
Nice
And that
introduction.
yeah, it was pretty rough, right? 30 laps in, and that's where we're at. And luckily, I was able to meet Al Parker, and he got me set up on getting it rebuilt. It was a time when we couldn't get blocks, right? You couldn't get
Right.
parts, and everybody else is just if something like that happened to your only engine, you were out for months. Al had a block. He got me set up, got me going. Again, I think we're out maybe 5 weeks, but sitting out 5 weeks, I kind of got that itch, so I bought a 360 also, right? We just started, just started working towards things and building new cars, and it has exponentially expanded to probably it's slightly out of control, I would say. Maybe. As my full-time shop guys are looking at me.
And your wife.
Yeah, well, she's not here currently. I'm sure when she watches this, she'll agree.
You don't let her go to the shop, I'm assuming.
She yeah, she does come to the shop. She actually gets to write a lot of the checks for me because I travel for work. So she knows what's being spent. Doesn't mean she likes it, but she knows.
Good luck with all that. So,
All the guys are laughing now too. So,
yeah. Well, so, before we get into the last 3 years, you mentioned your career. Is it electric, or you're in a like electrical field, or what is it that you have done, and did you go to school for it? How did you build that? And something must have helped you turn the corner that you could do this.
well, it started pretty much when I moved back north. I pretty much became an electrician. Did a lot of work in the low voltage world. Um, Still part of the electrical field, but that's primarily what we did. And I just continued to grow in a local company, and I got to the point where I was bidding jobs and just kind of doing some install stuff, but I was at the level where I wasn't going to go anywhere else. So I took a job in Wisconsin, um, working for a company that did nationwide work, and spent about 6 months doing installs for them. And they moved me into office to be an assistant project manager, and it just grew from there. Next thing, I was a project manager. Then I ran the entire construction division. And then I became an account manager, and that's pretty much where I was. And then about 8 years ago, I started with Ice Contractors, based out of Decatur, Alabama, and I run their national accounts. So we do big box stuff. Walmart's a big customer of ours, right? Like we just do a lot of big installs nationwide. We have
Mhm.
technicians all across the country, and I'm unfortunately responsible for 120 of them that report to me, and I deal with the headaches each day.
So running a race team is probably not as big of a deal because you have all these other, you're running a deal with 120 people.
Correct. It's not as important, right? Like it's not as hard. But the one thing that I've done at ICE is I've built a team of people underneath me that I can rely on, I can trust, and I don't have to worry about what they're doing each day. And that's the same inside the shop between Dennis Moore Jr. and Dylan Sampson and Billy Ryan, or Ryan Billy, or whatever he's going by these days. I've built a good team here in the shop, and it's seamless. They work hard, they get everything taken care of. As long as I keep taking them to the A&P afterwards, they're happy.
That's nice. That's low drag there. Just take them to the A&P, not taking them for a steak. So you decide to get into the ownership game, and you have the motor deal. Tyler stiffed you on a motor, gave you a bad one. We'll say that. We'll blame him, and because it's fun to blame Tyler.
Yeah.
And No, and then you get Brandon Wimmer. Your first year, how many races did you run? And like you said, this has expanded a lot in 3 years. It's almost like I don't know. It seems like you're just stockpiling inventory.
So the first year, I think only ended up running 8 410 races, including the 3 nights at nationals. We ran maybe 3 or 4 360 races. Um, we were able to actually 360 wise. I bought that 360 to run a race at the track my grandfather
Hmm.
was track champion at. The Sprint Invaders were going back there. We did everything we could, and we hot lapped and qualified it with Brandon the night before at Knoxville. Everything went seamless, brand new car, towed all the way over to run that race, and the magneto went out. And of course, I didn't have a spare, and so we did a whole bunch of pomp and circumstance, big show, and didn't even get to race. Um, so I put Dustin Selvage in it the next week to just try to work the bugs out and everything because maybe I might run 360 nationals. Um, Kelby Watt actually had reached out and we put Kelby Watt in the car that year and we went quick time that first year at 360 nationals, locked it in show, which was a big event for us. And as you know, since then, Kelby's gone on to be pretty quick in
Yep.
a lot of people's stuff. So um, that was a success. Nationals that year, we our 410 we got back. We had a little bit of an issue with the valve cover in a heat race that Brandon won during our qualifying night, and we broke that engine again. That was twice in I think 6 races. Um, Thought we were done, but Brian Ridge at RSR stepped up, let us use an engine. We went out Friday night, set quick time on Hard Knocks night with Brandon.
Hmm.
Um, ran extremely well. Uh, Felt really good about things, right? So that just kind of expanded into our next year. Um, Decided to run. Knew the 410 wasn't going to be full time again, just based on Brandon's schedule. He works hard in the farm fields, and in fact, that's where he is currently. I think still today, he's on his way to run here this weekend at Knoxville, but he's still working in the fields. Um, so we decided to try to run the 360 full time. Ran that with Dustin Selvage for a year. I put a car together for a young kid here out of Knoxville. He had his own 360 engine. His name was Alex Vandervoort. So we ran off and on three cars a night for most of the year. Um, Towards the end of the year is when Garrett Williamson kind of had his hiccups right before nationals, and I just happened to we had some cars and everything, so we just decided to let him and Dennis have a car to run nationals. They really quick, almost put it in show. Um, and that just kind of led me to the rest of that year. We kept Garrett in the car at the end of the year. We ran some in Pennsylvania, did a whole big tour, Eldora,
Sure.
all kinds of different stuff that I normally wouldn't do. And that just kind of steamrolled us into to last year where we ran 4 cars each week, which I don't plan on doing ever again.
Well, I want to, you really, your name popped up, I think, kind of on that national stage when the Garrett Williamson thing happened. Because obviously, with his situation, in fact, I was sitting in Knoxville when when I talked to him on the phone and he said he was going to run your car. And I'm like, who's that again? And I'm sorry, I just didn't
Nope,
know because at that point, you're only, as we know now, you're only a year or two in. Um, you guys got a lot of attention for that. Did that surprise you? And you seem like a guy who you're willing to step up and help a guy if you can.
yeah, I felt it was very unfortunate. Garrett was my neighbor here in the shops that
Oh,
year.
okay.
I never really spoke with him a lot. He uh, he had actually inquired about trying to run my 410 some earlier in the year because they were down on some engines and everything, trying to save some laps and everything. And I I didn't know who he was. I kind of blew him off. I mean, we joke about it to this day, right? Because I was like, I'm not letting that guy drive my car. And sure enough, I mean, he got put in a little bit of what I felt was a bad spot right before nationals, and I just he was so fast at that time. I couldn't say no. I mean, anybody in their right mind, if they had an extra car, they should have done it because as he continues to prove, he is definitely one of the up and coming young racers in the country. Uh, if I could have, I would have kept him as a driver in my stable, but obviously he's on to bigger and better things. So
Uh, you so you did the Garrett Williamson thing, and but I know I see some of the wing panels in the background. First off, I got to ask, always have a colorful car, especially at nationals when I get out there. And what's the six? Why six?
so there's there's a couple things to that. The six, when I went to start my team, I think single digits look better on a race car than double digits. Um, and then I started looking through all the different series to see what number I could run without having to run a letter, right?
Okay.
And nobody had ran the six. Well, I had forgot that that was the year that Bill Rose, there was something wrong, and Bill didn't run the full Outlaw Tour, but they still gave him credit for something in the point standing. So he still gets the six to this day. So every time the Outlaws come calling, now I still have to put a letter on it. So
Mm.
that's primarily it. The font itself is the same. When I worked on Terry Thorson's car early 2000s, he ran the number nine because he was a big fan of Bob East and their cars. So that nine is just it's the same font. It's just upside down.
Well, that's simple. I never thought of the letter thing. I hate the letter thing.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. But so last year, uh, you're not doing four cars again, but you're doing, I believe, we'll get to this year in a minute, but how did you end up hooking up with Caleb Johnson? And then I got to ask you how you ended up in PA helping Dylan Norris a little bit, but we'll start with Caleb Johnson.
So Caleb, for a couple years now, I've kind of talked with Caleb about that I wanted him to try to run my car here or there. We were going to try to run Devil's Bowl, one of the winter ASCS shows with the 360, and my car is he's a tall kid, so my standard cars had a little bit of a raised butt bar, so for Brandon, and that's the way he likes his cars, and Caleb wouldn't fit in it safely, so. After that, I started going to 2-inch tall cars, so that way I had the flexibility to put some of the taller kids that the racers keep getting taller and taller. Um, so I was looking forward to that. Early in the year last year, I was experimenting with some young drivers with my 410 car. We had Bryce Lucius in it. We
Mhm.
had Darren Nada in it, and one of the nights Darren was running my 360 at the time, and we wanted Darren to focus on the 410. So I asked Caleb if he would drive it that night, and he said sure. And by the end of that night, we had ran our best. Sorry, we the lights are motion sensors. So
No, they're fine. You're
um,
fine. You're fine.
um, we had our best night of the year so far with that 360 car. So I made the decision to try to see if Caleb wanted to drive it. He said he would think about it. He had to talk with some sponsors, and um, I expressed that if he wanted to put his sponsors on the car, that right they wanted to support him in his racing,
Right.
and I didn't need anything from them. Let's just put him on there so that way he could still advertise for them and he'd get to race a lot more. He'd still get to run his own stuff and my stuff, and still cross promote his partners. So that turned out well. He got faster and faster each week. Um, Unfortunately, we tore that car up at the Big Pain 360 show in the middle of the year, the fair show.
Hmm.
Um, got upside down and destroyed that car. So we actually put together one of Brandon's old cars, the yellow car, right before 360 Nationals, and got Caleb back in it. And fortunately for us, we qualified well, made it through a heat, got the luck of the inversion, and started on the pole and led every lap of a qualifying night. And um, he won his first race at Knoxville, and so did I as a car owner. So it was very exciting, big deal for us both.
And
Um,
Caleb's still driving for you today. He's going to be full time this year at Knoxville.
he is full time this year at Knoxville. We're currently slated for about 75 race schedule. Knoxville weekly, Houston's weekly, every Jackson, Minnesota race, um, anything and everything we can hit outside of that. We've been to Oklahoma, and I think we're going to go to our next midweek race is going to be 81 with high limit here in a couple weeks. Um, so we're going to run a lot and just see how that goes. We feel that as a team, the only way we can get better is by racing more. So
I can't disagree with that. So Dylan Norris last year, you show up in PA, and I'm like, as a Midwest car, and I know Dylan. I mean, obviously, being this is where I'm at, and how did Dylan Norris and you get hooked up?
well, it kind of started. Um, we went out and we had some races scheduled for Pennsylvania. The first weekend, we wanted to go to the Grove and get some laps. Um, and I think we were maybe going to run Lincoln too, but that weekend rained out, completely rained out the week before the National Open. So then we went to the National Open with Caleb, and we absolutely got our you know what's knocked in the dirt, right? Like as you would expect. Um,
Mhm.
Caleb's first time, my first time there making decisions, and it, it it was fun, but it just you know how that can be. It's kind of a little demoralizing. Um, so Caleb had to go home, I think, for a wedding or something, and I was out of town for work, and we were one of our partners, Fulkins Brothers. We
Mhm.
had our race stuff at their shop, and I was talking to Drew Bible, and he asked if we were going to race the following weekend, and I said I really don't think we are because I'm out of town for work. My crew guys actually had to fly home, right? Like, and I didn't have anybody to do maintenance that week because I was gone, and it didn't look promising. And Drew, he's like, hey, I think I might know somebody that'll be willing to do maintenance. I'll have him reach out. So Dylan and his dad reached out about that they'd be willing to do maintenance, and that I'd work some out with them to pay them to do that. They were getting everything done, and then Caleb called me and let me know that his plans had changed and he wasn't going to be able to race that weekend. Thought, well, what do I do? Right? Like I had race car ready to go in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
I should put somebody in it. And Dylan and Sean had been such a help that I was like, well, let Dylan have a shot at this, right? And so I think that first week was maybe the Outlaw Show at Lincoln,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. Pretty decent with them from the get go. Kind of let them do their own thing so that way they could feel a little comfortable and everything. And I think we had a little hiccup where he spun out or got spun, and it ended our night, right? Like ended our night prematurely, and I felt that Dylan still didn't get a good opportunity to actually run the car, and so I let him run it again. I came back, and I think we ran Lincoln again, um, and we were better. Not as good as we needed to be, but um, I enjoyed racing with those guys. So I let him keep the car. I think they raced maybe BAPS another weekend. I didn't even get a chance to make it, but I think they ran BAPS and then kept taking care of the car. Actually, Dylan drove it to Charlotte for us to help the team out, so that way Caleb could run it at Charlotte. Then drove it back from Charlotte. Just helped the team out immensely, and I he's such a good kid and worked so hard. Both him and his dad. I can't believe that. I know they're enjoying doing their own deal, but I can't believe that a car owner's not willing to step up and put him in a car because I think he's going to be pretty talented too.
Yeah, I mean, he was driving for GoBrek Motorsports, and then that ended, and then back in his own deal. And I think they were at East Bay last year. Took some lumps down there, but yeah, no, Dylan's had some success here in a short amount of time. I mean, and in the 358, he's really good. He won last week at Lincoln, in the 358.
I, I've seen that he does seem to be very good at that. So
Yeah, so
must
it's
must be the number.
yeah, he is in the six car. That's true. So this year you got Caleb running full time. Is Brandon Wimmer running full time in the 360?
No, Dustin Selvage
Dustin
is running full
Salvage.
time in my 360.
Okay.
Um, Brandon is we kind of a hodgepodge schedule right now of 410 races for Brandon. It really depends on what the other two cars are doing and whether or not he can get out of work and everything. I know that keeps him. He started the process of buying the family business, so he's staying pretty darn busy right this moment. So we were going to run Jacksonville tonight with him, but the weather just it was kind of iffy. I think they're going to get that show in, but
Yeah.
it just it just kind of scared me away. And I told the boys to just focus on Knoxville opener. Let's go out and put out hopefully a good outing out there and move forward.
So you do know at some point you'll end up with four cars in the pit area again, don't you? You're probably. I mean, you're on your way. Let's put it that way.
Well, yes, I'm probably trending that direction. Maybe. I know Billy and Dylan have probably choked me if that happens here out of the Knoxville shop. So
Yeah.
uh, we'll kind of stick with what we got for now.
Yeah, because you got Dustin, and then you have Brandon, something to work out in the schedule. And then, you have Caleb obviously running Knoxville, and then somebody will need a car and you'll be nice enough to give it to them.
Probably. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Just let's call it. I mean, but I like that you have a goal. What what um little bit about, I mean, when you were growing up and you were around, your dad, your grandfather, you're doing the whole racing thing and you're helping people out on the car. Did you ever imagine looking at having a shop, looking around and having the equipment you have in such a short amount of time and owning an operation like this? Was that ever an inkling in your mind?
No, not. I mean, honestly, not at all. Right. Like I never thought um, that I would. I mean, race cars are really cool. Like they're so damn cool, and uh, you can probably everybody in the shop will probably tell you the same thing. I'll come in the shop and I'll sit on the end of the mule and just look around and I'll be like, "That's really badass." Right. Like I did. In fact, when I came in today, I did the same exact thing. Um, it's it's a privilege to own race cars, especially of this caliber. Um, I just I can't believe it every time I'm in. It's amazing.
And you could have gone different directions. You could have owned something else as far as a different type of car. You chose sprint cars. Why?
Because they're badass, right? Like that's ultimately that's what it is, right? I
Yep.
do I technically I own two midgets. Garrett ran my midget at Chili Bowl last year, so
Oh,
did
okay.
Mark Bowser. So I do own two midgets. They're in the midget shop over in Illinois. They're not here with the sprint cars. I think Garrett's trying to sweet talk me into buying a Silver Crown car. I think. I don't know where I would put that just yet, but hey, you never know.
You keep the wingless stuff separate. I'm a winged elitist. So
I I agree with you on that.
yeah, and I definitely don't like midgets. This is public knowledge that has gone out over many shows how I do not like midgets.
I I honestly I hate midgets. I hated when I worked on them. I
That's
hate
great.
them, but I still it's just part of the game, right? So
Are you building up to something bigger? Uh, I mean, do you ever see yourself running? I mean, look, the way this sport's going now, with the money on the high limit tour, the Outlaws, do you ever see yourself? I mean, obviously you're a busy guy with work. Do you ever see yourself building this into a traveling team to where you might be running high limit or you might be the Outlaws, obviously a different type of schedule. Is that something in your future or never say never?
to be honest, um, it seems like there's a lot of money with the high limit thing, but ever since I've grown up, if I'm going to do a series, which I would probably like to do at one point in time, and at least once in my life, I figure you probably need to do it at least for 3 years, just because the first year it's going to be a
Yeah.
garbage year. But growing up, everybody wants to be an outlaw. That's just the truth.
Hmm.
Um, so my goal would to be at least right. Like you never know how things are going to trend, but I would like to try to run the outlaw tour 1 year, at least 1 year to at least be able to say that I've done it. I feel that there's probably a lot of people that went in thinking that, and they've ended up on that road trip for 10 years or so. Um, it opens a lot of doors with sponsorship and different things that um, you can't do at a local level, or that's harder to do at a local level. Um, so yeah, that would hopefully ultimately be my goal. But I honestly would continue to be content with putting kids in my race car like Caleb and Garrett and Kelby and watching them go other places and do things that that where you can just say, yeah, that guy drove my car once, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm sure there's people that have said that about Larson and Bell, right? Guys that have had them in their cars and said, he used to drive for me. Like it's a big accomplishment, right? To be able to have somebody drive for you and then go on to bigger and better things. So this world does not have enough car owners, especially standalone car owners. Um, so that's important, right? Like car owners that aren't just looking for a checkbook, right? That are willing to give kids chances, and that's something that I want to continue to try to do.
Yeah, that kind of leads me. You're not. I mean, Brandon Wimmer's been around a long time. I remember when he was in the 7TW. So I remember those years. Uh, but it seems like you're more of a guy who wants to give kids a chance. Why is that instead? Because look, I'm sure you get a ton of calls from a ton of drivers who want to run because that's how it is. Drivers I mean, I'm sure you have an opening. They know you have an opening or think you have whatever. They're going to call you. You seem to stay close to your belief of the younger driver and kind of giving them a boost to maybe the next team wherever it may be.
Yeah, I feel that again, there's not enough car owners that are just willing to give people a chance. It's an expensive sport, right? And there's a lot of kids out there that a lot of drivers, period, not just kids that have talent that don't have the checkbook behind them to be able to show what they can do. And it's hard. The sport's hard. The cost makes it extremely hard, and it just if you can give them a chance, I don't see why you shouldn't.
So, since you obviously work on these things, is this sport too much in a box? Are the cars too much in a box? I mean, look, they're pretty. We saw it last week at Knoxville with 57 and I believe the Sunbee car and Anderson with the underbelly.
Yeah.
So, and great to have you on to ask: are we too much in a box where these things are almost like IROC?
Yes. I don't necessarily know if it's a box. I feel the biggest problem is that everybody can buy the same thing, right? Like everybody, all of us that are running at what you would call a certain level are they're spending the same amount of money on engines, on cars, on parts, on everything. The only way you can try to get an edge on somebody is to do something different. And I know they don't want body panels to get out of hand. And I think the good idea of the rule update that Knoxville had this week is that any of those panels underneath the cockpit or the radiator had to be made out of aluminum or steel. I think that's important because a lot of guys have started going to carbon fiber floor pans, and I that's just unsafe. Um, I feel we could get into really go down a rabbit hole about safety, but I don't think you have enough time in your day to
Oh,
to
I'm
really
gonna
start
ask.
talking about that.
I'm gonna ask. Why is it always on the? I mean, do you feel from a safety standpoint, since you mentioned safety, um, to me, it seems we only talk about safety after the fact, and it's more reactive as opposed to proactive. I mean, and then it'll go away in 3 weeks. It's just, look, drug testing went away the minute COVID happened. It was never brought back. That was the out. I mean, let's face it. I don't think I'm speaking out of school there. So, are we too are we too reactive instead of proactive with this stuff? Where do you come out on that statement? And also, it seems like every time something's put in place, the car owner's eating it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel the biggest change in safety has to do with the way that the seats are mounted in the race cars,
Right.
and that all the way around, right? I feel that, and all it's going to do is cost me money and every other car owner money. But the cockpit area in these race cars is not very large at all. Um, you're limited on how you can mount your seats and your seat belts, and that's the biggest area I feel we need to work on um, outside of safety wiring the fuel cells.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the fuel cells, especially at a place. There are no easy. I've said this for 3 years now. I think you wreck harder at Knoxville than
Yeah,
almost everywhere. And people don't really think of it that way. They think of the big bank tracks. Or you wreck hard at Knoxville, and you're destroying some equipment. When
yeah, you do. We unfortunately had a fuel cell come off a race car last year in a wreck. It broke some of the welded tabs because the fuel load was so heavy at that time.
Mhm.
It wasn't just inserts that failed. I do feel that Maximus has sent me a couple of their uh, new brackets to mount the fuel cells at 6 points. I think that will help with that. Um, I think that's going to help. I don't feel the new rule about safety wiring the bolts is to me that I don't know.
I think that's a band-aid. I don't, in my opinion, I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's strong enough to,
It's not.
yeah, it's not strong enough.
Mm.
Boy, we agree a lot. You might be the one I agree with the most. So, um, when you mention and I've heard this, people want like almost a redesign of the car, but that's going to cost too much money to get people out of that. I mean, look, I'm a big dish wing guy.
Mm.
Back to, so we'll go to dirty air, okay? Because that's what the racing itself. You've seen a lot of races in your lifetime. Do we need to do something about it? Because Let's face it. Now, my idea is more compounds. We're not going to get the other manufacturers in it. It's not going to happen. They just Goodyear has no interest in American Racer. I don't know if they can produce enough. So, which I think is a problem. But if you go with different compounds like we had from, through the early 2000s and whatever, where guys are going to be coming and going in the feature, what based on soft and hard, and maybe a dish wing. Do you think that's something that could help the racing? Do you think the racing needs to be better, or is there not a problem at all?
I I think the racing, if people think that the racing is bad, they're obviously not watching.
I would agree
The
with that.
racing is very good. The race here at Knoxville, people want to complain about half miles, but the race here at Knoxville last week was absolutely lights out. Um, I feel the reason between formats and the fact that everybody is kind of going the same speed because everybody has the best of the best stuff. Everybody has really talented drivers and everybody's hiring really talented mechanics, right? Like you keep putting those together and you let these guys work together for periods of time, they're going to be at the top of their game. And you have, unfortunately, right now, you have the two car out there most of the time making fools out of everybody else because they're on fire right now. Aaron Reitzel is pretty damn quick now, right now, also. And it's just you get to a point where everybody's fast, right? And that's what it is. And it's just a little, just it's just little things that are having them excel better than other teams.
Yeah, I don't think the racing's bad. I think social media adds to it. So when somebody sees a bad race, like I often tell people, don't look at the box score. Look at the race. You can have a guy win from the pole and it's a great race.
Absolutely, it's been that way. It's been that way for years. I mean, how many times did Steve Kinsler start on the pole and win the race, but it was still a good race, right?
Right.
It was just the fact that he was dominant at the time. He was winning the trophy dashes. He was that fast. That doesn't mean that it was bad racing. Doesn't mean that at all. I'd be careful with social media. That guys on Twitter, they're out of hand. So I wouldn't listen to anything that's said there.
I think Facebook's the same. I know they're looking at you now.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, yeah, I don't think it's bad. I don't mind the formats because you get what you earn. I mean, it's not a I don't I'm not a big handicap guy. We have so many formats in central Pennsylvania that I mean, we have handicapping, we have the Outlaws format, we have the Speed Week format, we have the All Stars format, the High Limit format. We have them all.
I can't keep up.
No, I can't keep up, and I live here. So you are not a rent a ride guy.
Nope.
Your team, it's just it's something you're not in favor of with your deal. Why is that? Because look, this is still a business. And I know we've had a lot of talk about this lately with Chris Wyndham going to sides, the Hampton deal with Bill Rose, and Ashton Torgerson, people saying things about that. It is something that's growing. Why doesn't that appeal to you? I know to me it's not a big deal because I understand the economics, but why have you decided that that is something you're not interested in?
One, I don't want to feel like I'm beholden to anybody when it comes to decision making. Uh, Caleb he has a great group of partners that have helped immensely this year with funding. I was willing to do a certain schedule with Caleb. His partners came on board, and that allowed us to expand that little less than double of what we had agreed upon, but it helps, right? Like I think that's some of the stuff. It is teams need funding to be able to survive, right? I'm not going to bash any car owner for if a driver's funded and they can they can help them race by all means. We need more cars out there, right?
Right.
Um, it's great to see 65 race cars like there were at Knoxville last week or the 63 at Peevely. Like that's great to see. Um, I just, again, I don't ever want to feel like I have to complete a year with somebody just because um, they brought money to the team. My race cars, my two or three will continue to race no matter what. Sorry, Billy. One next year. Um, my cars will continue to race whether or not there's a funded driver or not. Right? Like I'm here for the little plastic trophies. I reckon we've only had two in 4 years, but we're gonna keep trying to get those plastic trophies. It's not about money; it's about trophies.
And how long do you plan to continue to do this? I mean, you've been at it. I know that's probably hard to say, but is this something you're in it for the long haul? You don't seem like a guy who's in it just for a flash in the pan. This is something you want to continue to do as long as you can.
Um, I would probably say that's more of a question for Betty, my wife. But, happy wife, happy life,
I was
right?
just going to say that. Yep.
I
Yep.
feel that,
I'm divorced, by the way, so I
yeah,
didn't
well,
obviously didn't get the memo on that one.
I feel, I feel that I don't plan on quitting. I do plan on working and moving my resources to try to build the team we spoke about earlier, just
Mhm.
to maybe try to do some bigger things at least once. It's going to take a little more focus. It's going to take away from some of the other stuff I can help other drivers with. Um, but there'll be a six car on the track for a long time.
Do you, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things. I don't like the term politics, but there's a lot of, do you want to be one of those influential guys who, you know, they come to talk about the ins and outs of the sport or where it should go, whether it be safety, mechanically, changes to the car, so on and so forth. Is that something you're interested in because you have a wide knowledge? You're kind of a new, fresh. I mean, you've only been here now a few years, so it's not like you're part of the old boys club, so to speak. Do you see yourself offering more opinions as you go down the road in this thing and kind of here longer?
Well, I don't know if that's something I'm looking for. I am very opinionated. Everybody knows that. I'm sure everybody knows. Um, but I do feel like there are ideas out here that there's a lot of people talking about when it comes to safety, when it comes to what ways to save the racers money, that it seems that there's not a lot of people listening. Um, Unfortunately, um, I don't know who's in charge of the safety council, but I hear people complain that it doesn't work the way that it should. I hear that all the time, and I don't know why there's not more. Maybe they don't build enough cars or whatever it is. They're not invited to these meetings, and I feel that the more minds and the more knowledge that you can have at places like that, the more beneficial it's going to be for everybody.
Yeah, I'm not a sprint car council guy because I just don't think they do enough. But I'm a overall like Australia almost. They have it over. I like the idea of a government body overseeing the country. And then I like each region, California, Midwest, and Pennsylvania. Throw in Ohio if they want. And you have regions and it filters down. You have representatives, so on and so forth, almost like a pyramid. And it hasn't picked up steam yet, but it's something that I have been writing about and talking about, and I feel it's time for that because I think we're headed in a decent direction, but there's some problems like the weekly program, for instance, which is why Knoxville bolstered their weekly program payout this year was to keep guys at home.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the Knoxville Raceway. They do so much for their weekly racers between just the purse on a weekly basis to the point fund money to the awards that are get passed out at the banquet. Um, and even John McCoy, he at least he talks to you if you have questions about safety or rules, or he'll listen to you. He A lot of times you're not going to change anything because he's the one making the rules, but he'll at least explain to you why something is a certain way. And that's all you can ask for from your from your local guys, right? Like, be honest with you, treat you right, treat you fairly, and keep the cars going.
One last thing, you mentioned about cost. If you were Grand Poobah for one day in sprint car racing, you were the guy. What two things? What would you change, and what would you do to save car owners money? Because you're right, we don't have enough car owners. We have a plethora of drivers.
Um, I don't. The easy answer that everyone talks about is narrow tires on the right rear. I don't necessarily like that idea. Um, and and honestly, it doesn't matter because we're gonna no matter what rule you change to try to save us money, we're gonna spend every bit we can to make them go just 1/10 faster. So um, I always say that sprint car racers, like the drivers themselves, they're completely nuts for getting in these race cars, and they're not very smart for doing it. The only one not smarter are the car owners. So
Yeah,
because
that's
we
true.
keep spending the money.
Yeah, and I think that is something that no matter what, you guys are gonna spend money. I don't think that's talked about enough. I mean, it's just no matter what rule change, you're gonna find a way to the guys are gonna find a way to go faster or get around it.
You're absolutely correct.
So, Dennis, thank you very much for joining us on the show. I don't want to keep you too long, and I appreciate it. Now people will know about you. Now you won't be anonymous.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you. That's going to wrap up another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com deep dive presented by Dottie's Family Market in Dover, PA. Thank you very much to Dennis Gainey for taking time out of his schedule. A lot of good stuff. Also, if you like the content on our YouTube channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also check out our daily exclusive content at SprintCarUnlimited.com. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Deep Dive.